Good morning. I am filming a series of 3 different videos, and all of these videos are in response to the score release of 2023. So the first one that I am going to film, and I am talking specifically right now around C3. I will put out another video around C4 because I don't want people to get super confused, is back to the idea of what it is the National Board Scorer is looking for. Okay, now this is a Christmas tree because it is Christmas season, and I also love the fact that the tree goes from the tiniest point at the top to the largest point at the bottom, and it's rooted in something, in its base, in its trunk. It's rooted in persuasion. So what are we trying to persuade? We are trying to persuade the assessor that we are the standards for our certificate area. Whatever that area is, when we have become those standards, the assessor will be able to feel it, hear it, see it, know it. It will be so authentic that it will be undeniable, and it will come through in your writing. And so what grounds it closest to the persuasion, like getting rooted in persuasion, are the 2 things closest to the roots of the tree, which are reflection. And I sometimes will think of reflection in the sense of being diagnostic, diagnostically thinking about my practice and what it is that needs to be shifted and changed, maybe the next steps. The word how comes into play a lot when we're closer to the base of persuasion. If we move up the tree, where it's less of a wideness there on the tree, we're looking at that analysis. You've got to analyze, be analytical with the whys and the in what ways for the scorer. Why did you do the things you did? In what ways did you see your students impacted? You're making a claim about what you've done that really works, and you're providing evidence about where we can see that it worked. Might be that, a child met a particular goal. Here I can see them meeting goal number 2. Here's evidence of them doing that and how I know this. So the analytical piece is crucial. When we look at weighting, and weighting meaning WEIGHTING, for the assessor, and where will they find the evidence they need for the rubric that they have to score from, it's going to be from the middle of that tree to the base of that tree. So the idea that the description, which you see is at the very teeny tiny top part of the tree, the what you're doing, it's less supportive, and it provides the least amount of evidence of it all. It basically just frames it so the assessor knows, like, this is exactly what he or she is doing. But the significance, the diagnostic piece, the analyzation of why, the you thinking out loud, comes in your analytical voice and your reflective voice of the writing. So if you will notice, to the right side of the tree here, I've got some things in green. One says, I used, I noticed, I understood, I chose to, I saw a need for, I recognized. Those are ways that you can push in the analytical. You can talk about the why. You can tell us how you're thinking. So using I at the beginning of every single sentence for a lot of you is choppy and not appropriate for in your thoughts academic writing. But here in the national board process, where the writing is really much more technical than it is beautiful and easy to read, I could be your friend, making sure that you have the I followed by that claim or that evidence. When you see the pieces in red, my next steps are in the future, I will, I now know, I now see, upon reflection to impact students greater, I will. You're still seeing the I's and the my's and hearing that. You're still taking total credit for what's going on around you, but now you're more in that reflective voice. You're at the base of the tree, the widest part. And some of you have gotten feedback statements around, you might want to be more reflective in how you'll see future instructional practices or something like that. That's because you didn't give them enough really clear, concise, and convincing pieces of evidence in that reflective voice. So if we can all agree that whether we're talking about video 1 or video 2, or our student work samples in C2, or our data and assessments over in C4, if we can all agree that the description is there simply to frame and give background to the assessor, it's the smallest part of the writing, and the questions are going to start with what, then we're going to spend the majority of our space, which here in C3, you only have 4 pages for your analysis and reflection. Mostly your description is in that 2 pages of planning for C3. So I'm noticing as I speak with teachers in a one-on-one setting right now who didn't receive the scores that they wanted, I'm saying to them, when you wrote your planning piece, when your 2 pages of planning, did you write that before you filmed? And a majority are saying, no. What happened was, I had a good lesson. I filmed it. I just filmed all the time, Tracey. I just turned on the camera and I'm like, I'm going to film this lesson and I'm going to film this lesson. And I just filmed. And then, I wrote the planning after I had done the lesson. Okay. Now think about the assessor's standpoint and the way the portfolio is developed. The assessor is thinking that you planned, you wrote those 2 pages of planning, you taught, and then you wrote about what you taught. You analyzed and reflected on your teaching and their learning. That's how the assessor's reading it. So when you go back with an assessor voice, is the assessor buying in to the fact that that is the way it's done? It needs to be done that way. We plan, we teach, we analyze and reflect, and we reteach. That's that helix architecture of accomplished teaching that the National Board gives you to look at, and you go bottom up on that helix. And always at the top, you're moving back down to reteach, and you're moving back up the helix. So really think about that. Think about the fact that you have to plan before you teach, and you're probably going to want to go ahead and write about it so that the assessor feels that concise convincingness to get you up in the 3 range, and that you're not just doing it all after the fact. So my very next video to you all in C3 is me trying to teach you about the sequence and flow of lessons, because it's another thing that I've noticed from talking to teachers that maybe that isn't really clear, the way you do that planning prior to just turning on your video and filming. You really need to set the stage so the assessor can buy in. So I'll see you in that video in just a few minutes.